talk about volunteer engagement. It's actually going to be me.
Chris, you.
But it could be any one of you. That's why I asked the question. Because all of you have really been engaged with our volunteers.
Nan is definitely, though, a volunteer wizard. I just have to say, I've learned so much from your approach, Nan. So
that's funny. I was actually about to say, while volunteer engagement is in my my realm of responsibility, I think I've said to many of you over the past year, I'm just not doing a sufficient job. And the job that's being done now that has virtually nothing to do with me is so much better, I think, than I just like it better than what was being done, and not just because I'm not doing it. So volunteer engagement, and we changed this from volunteer coordination or management to focus on volunteer engagement is about engaging and relationship. The Young Gardeners program, if you'll remember, was founded by volunteers. I was a volunteer, John, Mary, a bunch of you guys were volunteers before you became session leaders. But we started the whole thing as a volunteer effort. So it came from there. The other thing is that because this program is really about empowering our community, transforming our community, it is critical that we get as many people who are members of the community involved. Not just the kids, not just us as garden leaders or staff, not even just the families. But it's important to give everybody, or as many people as possible, an opportunity, literally. I mean, you hear it in all kinds of volunteer, like, talks or articles or whatever. Volunteering is an opportunity, and it is an opportunity. The opportunity of volunteering is the opportunity to give, and you guys all know that intimately. And particularly with the Young Gardeners program, we got it going on. We've got these gardens. They're beautiful. We get to play with children. We are all cool people. And we are making a difference that you can see almost on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. This is something that it's important that we don't just keep to ourselves. Okay? All right. I'm going to go back to the outline. So,
I'll take care of Donna.
Okay, thank you. So volunteers are really what have made and will make this program sustainable. We have, this was one of the big realizations that I had this morning as I was preparing for this, is that I've looked at this as this is a Nan thing, and it is so not a Nan thing, especially now. And it's not even just the work that gets done, but you guys have taken responsibility, and now it is a we thing in terms of accountability and responsibility. So that means that we are responsible for sharing this with people and setting up the infrastructure for the sustainability of the Young Gardeners program. So I think Denise mentioned this, but I don't remember. Dream back in May of 2016 was every school on Galveston Island, I wasn't thinking about Bolivar at the time, would have a school garden and healthy eating program, and that program would be an integral part of the school system and would be set up to last forever and ever and ever. Critical to the Young Gardeners program, it was originally set up to be something that would be around forever and ever and ever. Volunteers are really the exostructure, the skin that holds that possibility, that makes it possible. You guys are the bones. So sustainability, volunteers, they're the ones that make it happen. And I'm going to say right, the thing that keeps being on my mind is we still have a long ways to go in terms of volunteer engagement and really building up the structure and the consistency of how volunteers are engaged. So like Larry was talking about and Nicole were talking about, hardly having any volunteers. You have all experienced this. We're getting better every year, and we need to get better every year. We need to engage new and more people all the time. Because as Denise keeps reminding me, we'll have volunteers say, okay, well, I'm not going to do it anymore. And I used to actually take it personally because everything in the world is personal. It's all about me. But then I would take it beyond it not being personal. I'd be like, gosh, what are we doing wrong? And Denise is just like, man, they've been around for a year. People don't like take on volunteer jobs for a lifetime. Just because I do doesn't mean everybody else does. And isn't that awesome that we have long-term volunteers. But we want to keep people engaged and moving through. Okay. I forgot to turn on the timer. So at 2:50, somebody, if I'm not done, somebody needs to say, yo, it's 2:50. Okay, so you know what volunteers do. What do volunteers actually do? What kind of activity and what do they do to make the program happen? Just call out, unmute yourselves.
Saturday work days.
Saturday work days.
Help with the lessons with the kids.
The garden facilitators, they help with the kid sessions.
Watering.
Lessons. Watering.
Community days.
Community days. Yes, they're actually called community days now, not work days.
They help connect with the children on a level that we can't connect with each individual. So they help with the student-teacher ratio.
That's exactly what the school district calls it. They in their district meetings or curriculum meetings, if we get mentioned, they say that we are the after-school program that has the highest student to teacher or teacher to student ratio. And at first, I'm like, what are they talking about?
Yeah,
they're talking about
those relationships. It's
They're
about being able to
volunteers.
have one-on-one connections for those kids. Yeah.
What else? What else are volunteers good for besides what they do? And what else do they do? Anything else?
Give us feedback sometimes about how our mission is being accomplished.
Yes.
Yeah, or maybe different ways of doing things too. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Or if something is broken or messed up, they'll let us know.
Yes, they have ideas and they give us feedback.
The feedback is what and I asked them too. Do you think we did a good job? Did that work out right? And it's good to have another adult say, yeah, it went pretty good, or maybe we should have done it this way, or we could have done it this way. It's good to have an adult feedback with you all the time too.
Mm-hmm.
And they give ideas. I mean, sometimes we've had some last minute rainy days where it's like, oh my God, I was not prepared for this rainy day. And I'll have a volunteer, like Aja was a good one. She would come in and she's like, well, let's do this. And she'd have this whole thing and we'd paint rocks and it was beautiful. So it's fun to have ideas to help.
They are extending our capacity as a program. Okay. So key with engaging volunteers is there are two main things to really be thinking about. One is relationship. The other is structure, and they go hand in hand. Before I just start talking off the top of my head, let me just see what. Okay, yeah. All right, let me talk about relationship first. So if you know me, you know that relating is like my #1 priority. and that everything is possible through communication. With our volunteers, and I am now saying our, let me peel it back for a second. It used to be that I did most of the communication with the volunteers. And my approach when we first started the program was if people were interested in working with the Young Gardeners program. Hey, Donna.
Hi.
Good to see you. We're talking about volunteer engagement. She's another one. I wanted to have a one-on-one conversation with every single person that was interested in volunteering for the Young Gardeners program. One, primo was to get to know them and to find out, answer the question for myself, what is important to you in your life and what your expectations are for volunteering with us. And honestly, you guys, 2 times in having this conversation, like a couple of hundred times, I came across people who are like, I don't know what's important to me, or I don't have anything that's really particularly important. Those people were not suited for working with the Young Gardeners program. Because if you cannot identify, even as a young person, a child or a teenager, anything, my mama is important to me. And why is your mama important to you? Because she gives me food and she hugs me every morning.
Yeah.
If you can't identify something that's important to you, you're just not ready to play in this game that we are playing, because it is a very kind of high level intentional game. And you guys, because we've been around for 3 years, I was gonna say we got a reputation, but it's not reputation, it's beyond that. We have established a standard for operating. And with all the problems and all of the glitches and all of the whatever, this is a well operating after school program. I mean, I know it intuitively, but we get lots of accolades. And a critical part of that is actually being selective about volunteers. So, establishing relationship, thing number 1. One-on-one conversations. I mean, things are getting reformed as we speak. So you guys are now the front line of volunteers, and I am hesitant to say you have to have a one-on-one conversation with everybody who shows an interest in working with the Young Gardeners program. I'm hesitant to say that at this moment, but that may come down the pipe. Once you've had a conversation and you establish what's important to them, then part of establishing what's important to them is finding out, what are they good at? Some people don't know what they're good at, and that's cool. Some people are clear, or sometimes you can hear in learning about their lives that they've got a superpower. They've got a superpower with art, with loving to read, with their grandkids, with construction, or with figuring out details, or with spreadsheets. When I've identified a superpower for an individual, I actually say to them, that sounds like a superpower. You don't have to use the word superpower. That's my thing. That sounds like an area of strength for you. Would you be interested in putting that strength to work for the Young Gardeners program? Always a request that I usually have to say, and you should feel free to say no, because a lot of times people hear my request as, yo, I want you to do this. But you want to make requests of people because it's a very powerful form of communication, and give people the opportunity to powerfully say no, or powerfully say yes. Once you've identified, like, if they have a superpower, and if there's an area of the Young Gardeners program that will meet their superpower, you might try to hook them up. If there's nothing like that, and they, it's just like, I just want to get out and have some zen and watering, then you start to slot them into a role. Before I go to the structure for roles. So You have individual conversations with people, even when people say, I want to be a weekly waterer. 5 or 10 minutes to get to know them. We regularly check in with volunteers. Now, when it has been just me, I would have make phone calls to every single volunteer once a quarter. It wasn't just me making the calls. Usually it was me and another volunteer or two. But we call volunteers at least once a quarter to see if they are still interested in volunteering and find out how it's going for them. That was a structure that existed because it was a single person kind of who was responsible for volunteer engagement. But now that the engagement is spread out to several of you, I don't know if that structure is necessary, but the core of what that structure represents is important. Regular, you want to know what's going on with your volunteer. You want to know if they're happy with the role that they have, getting feedback, and if there are things in something about them and their lives. So that just means being available, or if you haven't heard from people in a while, actually reaching out to them. Oh, other thing is, first communication with volunteers should always, after that initial getting in touch with you, like, hey, I'm interested in Young Gardeners program, should always be either a face-to-face physical conversation or a phone call or a video call. Do not set people up in a role just through text or email. Okay, regular communication. I'm just leaving it kind of loosey-goosey now because I think it's all going to be reformulated because you guys are doing this now instead of me. Any questions about communication, or do you have any disagreements, or
I want to make a comment just because I don't know why I'm the kind of person who I would avoid like asking people for stuff, like, you know, maybe it's the whole asking for help thing.
Yeah.
And so I had a big moment this past year, finally reaching out and asking for the maintenance crew to come help us, because it felt like such a big ask, like, hey, will you come out and sweat and mow the lawns every single week, you know, at all of our schools.
Yeah.
And one lesson I've learned from Nan is just to go for it, and that don't be shy. Like, people appreciate being asked and are grateful for the opportunity, and it really blew my mind, and like it ended up being a great relationship. And I just I thought it was an interesting thing that I had to unlearn, was the idea that you're like bothering people. So, you know, even as someone who's worked with volunteers, who's worked with projects, and I don't know, there's a lot of appreciation that goes both ways whenever you ask for volunteers. So yeah.
You touched on a few things. Shy. You can be shy and still be in communication. You can be afraid. I'm afraid every time I pick up the phone, every single time, and still make the call. For me, what I used to do is, and I think I suggested it to some of you, is I would set a certain time of the week that I had scheduled for making volunteer calls. It was Sundays from 2 to 5, which is way too long. But some people would get on the phone. I always, and also I make games for myself. So I had a little check thing because I wanted to have 10 conversations, and that often required like 30 calls. I've never gotten to 10 conversations because some of you volunteers talk for a long time. But you know, you could set up, okay. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because basically I said, this is what I'm supposed to be doing now, even though I don't like this person that I'm about to call. You guys, I know that sounds like crap, but it's true. There are people, I love pretty much every single human being. There are very few human beings I've ever met that I don't truly love. But there are quite a few people walking the planet right around me. I just don't like them. They wreck my last nerves. So even if I didn't want to call them, if they were on my list, I always make the hardest call first. There was
I wanted to say another technique you taught me was because I think I had some fear of rejection of like, making these big asks and people being like, no, what are you, crazy? Like, I don't know what in my imagination they were going to say. But for example, at Collegiate, we needed a dump truck to get all this stuff full. So last time the soil dudes were around, the phrase Nan taught me is, this might sound crazy. It's totally okay to say no. This is a crazy idea.
How many of you have heard me say that?
Nicole. And what did it lead to? But not only were they like willing, but they're super excited. And now they're so invested in the project. And they're like, we picked out only the special logs for you. And we delivered all the way from Houston. So that has been a real helpful tool for me is, I know this is a crazy thing to ask. Please feel free to say no, XYZ.
You guys, people secretly love to play in crazy games. They love to. There was something else that you, and it's not just me, I know it's true. No. You can use the Young Gardeners program as your own personal development thing. Becoming comfortable with no is one of the most powerful lessons that you can get in your life. So the other game I do is I try to rack up no's. I'm just calling for a no. I'm calling for a no. I'm calling for a no until I get a yes. And then I'm like, what the fuck? Sorry. But anyway, that's the trick that I have for myself. And all I'm saying is, the trick I have for myself is, I'm calling for a no. I'm going to this meeting for a no. Burnett, I knew that this principal wasn't going to work with us. I just knew. I was like, okay, we're just going to go have this meeting. I'm going to lay it out there, and then we'll be off to another school. That was not what happened at all. Yeah. Okay. So anything more about communication at this moment? No specific examples, because we're going to come back to that. Any more questions or concerns? What about dealing with, like I mentioned, dealing with people that I don't like? And my strategy is that I have a goal. I have a job to get done. And, well, for me personally, what I say is, I love this person even if I don't like them. Another interpretation of that can be like, I need to respect everyone around me, regardless of whether they respect me. Regardless. And I think most of you, maybe not most of you, but some of you have already dealt with what I call problem volunteers, but I'm not supposed to use that terminology. What's the terminology I'm supposed to use? Oh, challenging. So let me just say that the best thing you can do is to, and Chris, we're going to come back to you and ask you to give your story, okay? Did you know that? We were going to ask you to do that. Unmute yourself. Actually, you know what? We should get that story now.
I didn't realize that.
Could you tell? Okay. Could you talk about the story of Catherine and the Vinny family?
Yeah. So we have many volunteers at Rosenberg, and some of them live very close to the garden, which is super convenient for us. And one of those volunteers was an older lady named Catherine, and she just felt at home in the garden. it really became this magical place, like it is for all of us. But she started to take ownership of the garden, like she was the security dog for the garden.
It was
So
beyond
anybody who she was not familiar with, which is everybody, you know, she started to question an approach. She had, like, I don't know, I felt kind of early on that she might be, because I know that feeling when we work in our gardens as hard as we do. It's hard to separate ours from the community. At least, I don't know, it is for me, or was for me. So, like, I could relate to her in that transition. But she confronted Denise at one point. Denise was harvesting, and she sent me this text message, like, this woman was in the garden. She says that she's with Young Gardeners program. Her name was Denise. I'm like, oh dear Jesus. So there's that.
Times I said thank you for watching out for the garden.
Yeah, right? It's positive reinforcement, or, like, you know, yeah, we don't have locks on our garden. Like, you know, it's just right there in the middle of everything. And then there were a couple other incidents, or one other incident that was kind of like made you think, like, is this person right for this program? Like, what we're doing here? Because I know that it's challenging for me to adapt to everything that's changing, but to be able to communicate that with a volunteer and have them on the same page too, it was pretty challenging. So the last confrontation that she had was with a volunteer student. So this was a student of the program who brought his family into the garden to work, and Catherine did not know them. So she approached them, and Vinny's mom, she sent me a text simultaneously that Catherine sent me a text and just kind of let me know what was up. And Vinny's mom wasn't offended or didn't have any hard feelings, but she was interrogated. And golly, that just was so unacceptable. And frankly, I was embarrassed. So that's exactly what I told Catherine. Catherine, I quit was the only thing that she responded to me. And I was like, thumbs up. I see her walking. I did. I mean, she could have talked to me about it, right? She could have talked to me about it, and we could have kind of worked it out, and it might have been an opportunity for her to kind of refine some of those rough edges that we all need to refine when it comes to social interaction. I'm totally that person. But I think the important lesson was that, like, you know, this program is adapting very quickly to the times. And all of us are able to do that, and largely the volunteers that stick around and that are interested in being a part of this, you know, are interested in adapting with us. But some volunteers, they have a different agenda that they're not communicating with us about, and that's fine. But once you identify that, you kind of just have to, like,
you know what? I've been to your garden several times, and matter of fact, this last time when I went last week or whatever it was, your garden is very unique in the fact that besides just the garden, that whole area is a very community play. The women brought their lawn chairs.
Yes.
When I was about 5:30 and I was leaving, all these women were in the little park area right close to the school between the gardens, having a social, I guess. When I was there in training last year, sitting on the park bench over there, people came by and asked me, "Oh, how are you doing?" And I introduced myself. And they went, "Oh, well, our school teacher at Crenshaw lives right across the street over here."
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're very engaging. That's community, a tight-knit
Yes.
community right there for sure. That's why you've got so many volunteers, I'm sure.
Yes, it has a lot of exposure for sure right there.
There's
We're
a lot of
grateful
people there.
for that.
And it's proximity, but it's also it's like you said, it's very open and inviting for community. We can all look to doing that in some way, shape, fashion, or form.
Yeah.
So, moral of this story, thank you, Chris, for defining it. Young Gardeners program is not for everybody. It's not for everybody staff-wise. It's not for every kid. It's not for every volunteer. We have fired many volunteers. I have fired many volunteers. Sometimes the firing is kind of the way Chris did it, which is you really listen to people, and then they're going to take themselves to where they need to be. Or I have often said, after completely listening, even if it takes an hour, just listening. Is this really for you? Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was so impressed by Chris's boundary setting, that she has, totally internalized like the YGP way and mission and vibes and values, to where she could say like, hey, this is not acceptable. And, as I mentioned, like, I'm not always Miss Confrontation. So for me, I was like, get it. And sometimes it's you always have the power to do what you think is best for your garden, and just do what you need to do.
And I just want to say too that I wouldn't have felt kind of as confident in my appreciation for what was going on if it wasn't for you guys. I have learned so much from you guys. I'm sure all of us can say to everyone else how valuable we are to each other in this. I've learned a bunch, so thank you.
And we're going to back you up. We're going to back you up. Period. Okay, structure is the other critical part of volunteer engagement. And I'm talking serious structure. So until COVID time, we were using Sign Up Genius to schedule, as a structure for keeping the schedule of volunteers, and also as a means for people to sign themselves up. We're not using Sign Up Genius now. And quite frankly, Sign Up Genius was not being religiously used across the board, even before COVID. I don't know if we're going to continue to use Sign Up Genius in the fall. At this point, we are. Remember, we're part of the farmers market, and there's a strong desire to have all programs using Sign Up Genius. But let's just talk about in terms of what Sign Up Genius represents. When working and engaging with volunteers and you want them to do stuff, you need to have very specific time slots to offer them, or request specific time slots from them. Even with the weekly waterers. Even if you're not going to be monitoring, like that they got there from 5 to 6 on Wednesday, which the first year I actually did. That was crazy.
Pause real quick. Donna, would you do me a favor and mute your screen?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks.
Specificity in terms of scheduling is the key to success with scheduling, with working volunteers. Okay, so it's not just the weekly waterers, but it is the weekly waterers. You want to, when you have somebody who says, hey, I'm interested in being a weekly waterer, you want to be able to go to wherever you are keeping a schedule. And right now, you all have different places where you're keeping the schedule, and that's totally fine. But you want to have, even if it's in a book or on a piece of paper, who your Monday water who your waterer is and what day of week they have. So that when somebody says, I want to be a weekly waterer, you can say, we have Wednesday and Saturday open. Would you like to do morning or evening? You want to get that specific. Garden facilitators, same thing. People are interested in working with kids. The main opportunity to work with kids is to be a garden facilitator. And that means they need to be available to volunteer Monday through Thursday or Friday, generally between 3 and 6. The times change based on the school, but generally that's what you tell people. And you guys can all be emissaries to get volunteers in, whether it's for your school or for or another school. So anytime anybody says, I'm interested in working, I love that Young Gardeners program, what you're doing, I wish I could be part of it, you can say, you can. If it's Kat and they're talking to her, Kat can say, well, I'm actually at Collegiate. It's located over here. Would you be interested in volunteering with my school? The person might come back and say, oh man, I'm further at that other end of the island. We actually have a school there too, Rosenberg. Give me your contact information, and for this summer, you put them directly in touch with Chris Larrabee Johnson. So having a schedule is critical. Having specific time slots in that schedule. Writing people's name and contact number in that schedule. Sign Up Genius was adjusted so that people could put their phone numbers in. When you have slots that are open or you need to get stuff done, get in touch with people. I found that the most effective, and actually, I was about to say, I don't know if it's just for me, but actually now I know that the data shows. Right now in today's world, texting people from a personal number as opposed to one of those text services is the most effective way of having people respond to you. So if you need to get some volunteer help, text your entire list of volunteers. So even if you need help with moving soil, you can text the people who are garden facilitators and weekly waterers. And that brings me to the final part of structure. You want to offer as many possibilities for participation as possible. So not just weekly waterers, especially now, not just garden facilitators, but all of the stuff that you have to do in the garden, you could farm out to volunteers. You are now garden leaders, which means you could be managing the whole thing. And people, they love it. And was I supposed to ask Chris to talk more about? No. Structure. You are using different structures, but once, have we talked to, I was going to ask you, Danielle, to talk about BuddyDo.
Oh yeah.
How you use it.
Okay, BuddyDo is very helpful. So it's an app, and I think you can get it for Apple or Android. Let me show you right here. Well, you can't see it, but I can share with the group after I'm done talking about it. And what you do is when you find out someone who's interested, you communicate with them via, well, first I like to start with a text message and see when's a good time to actually call and speak. Then we speak on the phone, and then I tell them about the app. I offer it to them. Some older people, don't like working with apps as much, so I don't force anybody into it. But actually, everybody has joined in on this app, and then, there's a dashboard wall that kind of just has all the information. I make announcements. So for example, I made an announcement recently that just said tomatoes galore. And I said, there's more tomatoes coming in than I can handle. If you want to come after Wednesday, when we do the distribution, is a good time to come and get some tomatoes for your family. That's one thing. Things about watering, I gave them a note that we're only watering the sweet potatoes once a week. I have the schedule for the weekly waterers just like pinned. So, and then that has their names and phone numbers. It's not meant to be a replacement for that interpersonal thing, but to me, it's a really easy way, you know, because we have a chalkboard, and I don't have that artistic bent to really make that chalkboard appealing. Plus, there's like a lot of information to
I
give.
want to pop in too. One thing that I've seen happen on your Buddy Do that's so cool is like once a woman texted in like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot we're off the island today, blah, blah, blah. And another volunteer saw that and said, oh, no problem. Like we're available to
Right.
go water right now. So I was like, whoa,
Right.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's a good way for people to communicate with each other, especially like under these circumstances. And I have a funny feeling, you know, there's even more that could be done with that app. There's albums you can put on photos. So say like once we start getting more towards those like community days and that kind of thing, we could have photo albums on there. We could photograph, you know, I could probably be sharing some pictures of the distribution too, so they could understand. That could also help reinforce them not taking more, although I haven't had a problem with that too much, people taking too much. And then you can put links, tasks, you can do polls on here. I haven't done any polls, but that could be a good thing. And what I have on the chalkboard is I say attention potential volunteers, or attention if you want to get involved in the apps, call Danielle at my phone number, and then I will connect you to our volunteer app. So I'll share that with you, the Buddy Do, and you can, it has a
Jessica
desktop.
just did in the chat.
Huh?
Jessica just shared it in the chat.
Oh, good.
So that's one example of a structure for engaging volunteers for scheduling and communicating. You don't have to use Buddy Do right now. You don't have to use Sign Up Genius, but create a structure. It is critical to success. And it's also really critical as part of your structure to identify where your holes are and focus your energy on those holes. So for example, at some point, I realized that OPPI just didn't have any garden facilitators. At that point, I was completely focused. Everybody who came through was going to be going to OPPI. At Crenshaw, we need to do more work to get people engaged. And I know that they are there. But part of that work is going to be identifying what time slots and what jobs do we want people to do.
I've got that on the board, Art. I've got that on the board on the shed with my name on it, and I need water for Friday and Saturday.
But the work to do is actual outreach work. So you guys don't have to, I'm sorry, go on, Larry.
I just said, yeah, to get to them.
Yes, exactly. And right now, all you need to do is be emissaries. Just if anybody happens to ask you about the program, say, hey, yeah, and if you want to get involved, I can get you involved. And share what you're doing. Give people the opportunity to move soil. Give people the opportunity to do weeding. Give people the opportunity to do planting. Remind your volunteers to harvest at least once a week for themselves. Acknowledgement. Last thing. Acknowledgement is critical. Another very powerful form of communication. So acknowledging your volunteers. We have it built into our garden sessions. We suggest that you ask the kids to thank the volunteers, but at every garden session, you need to personally somehow acknowledge and or thank them. And acknowledgement is even more than thanking them. It's letting them know that you know who they are and that you have really gotten something from them being there. So did we talk about this? I feel like we talked about
this reminds me so much of what we were saying about Love and Logic. It's very much a Love and Logic situation, even when it comes to the occasional goof ups that volunteers might make, because that happens. We're all human. And, you know, there was one situation I remember at Larry's Garden where one of the volunteers just didn't know better. And she was like, yeah, kids, go run all over the field. You know, so we're going to use that same idea of starting with relationships and not ever being punitive or like controlling, but wanting to help every situation be a learning situation.
Yeah, and I think that's it's helpful to use a little ounce of prevention rather than a pound of cure, so that they know what their boundaries are, and that it helps to tell them what we're going to be doing and what the rules are, even if they just hear the rules when you say them to the kids. So that, to let them know, you know, these are the boundaries, and so you don't have to go and say, hey, they can't run across the field.
You know what? Speaking of the rules and letting people know, Leslie,
Arapi,
yeah. What's your last name?
Waylon.
Okay, whatever. I'm like, I don't know her by that name. Anyway, we did an actual volunteer orientation the first summer after the first year.
You mean
And-
Leslie Clift?
Clift, yes. She has more than once suggested that we do a real volunteer orientation because she got so much out of it. So maybe we'll work on that this summer.
Great.
Maybe we'll ask Leslie to work on it.
That would be really fun. Maybe have like a barbecue and like make a celebration out of it.
Yeah.
Do that.
Once we're allowed to meet in person again.
And
Yeah.
speaking of barbecues, you should know that the farmers market hosts twice a year or once a quarter, I don't remember, volunteer acknowledgement parties. And they have a kid-friendly version and an adult version. And we're looking at just scheduling something for the YGP volunteers this summer, because there's a lot of volunteers out there who are working way more than we've ever had any volunteers work before. So I think that's enough for me and volunteers. Anything anybody else wants to say about volunteering and engagement at YGP?
I'm curious, does anybody feel like they have a shortage right now? Like you really would like to get some more hands out in your gardens?
I do. I think I've engaged with my volunteers, and I think some of this stuff has helped, because I think I need to be more consistent in my communication with them in order for them to feel. Because I've asked, I think you guys have seen inside my shed, I have the instructions, and they're supposed to kind of text me when they get there and text me when they leave. And a couple of them will do it every now and then, but one does it all the time. So then I, keep trying to check back, but then I feel like I'm pestering them. If like, did you drop off because you don't want to do this anymore? Or are you doing it and you're not telling me? So it's kind of, yeah, I think I do need a better system for communicating with them more consistently. And I think I need people.
I'm sorry, say that again.
And I also need more people, I believe.
Good, and I'm glad you asked that, because we do have a queue of people who would like to volunteer, and I wanted to wait until this training. So you would like more people, and Nicole, are you saying you want help with volunteers?
During the school year especially. I don't know what it's like at the garden right now, but during the school year, yes.
Okay, yes, yeah, we're gonna really hit that. You brought up something, honey, when people fall out of communication or fall out, I don't know whether they're doing stuff, that's a signal to me that I at least need to make a call just to see how you doing.
Yeah.
And you never know what's going to come out. Usually, and I will ask how you're doing, and a whole lot more information may come than what I was anticipating. But still, that's how we're relating.
Okay.
Would you say,
Danielle?
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't feel like I have a shortage of volunteers, but I'm wondering, there might be people who want to get out into the garden. I've had a few people kind of roam around the garden and say, oh, I've been interested in helping, but, we need to get out of the house. And I'm wondering if we could put out something like on some of our social media saying how they could reach out to each of the different gardens. For example, one of the women who I deliver to, she lives on one of the streets that goes north-south. And she said, well, I'd like to go to one of the gardens. And I said, well, which which school does your daughter go to? And Rosenberg. So I said, well, you can contact Chris, but I kind of didn't quite know how to connect them.
So
Um,
I just got permission today to contact our families
okay.
about volunteering because,
Okay.
well, first, Casey did not want us to really encourage families to be in the garden for health reasons,
Okay.
for safety reasons. And then there was all kinds of bullshit stuff with ACE not wanting us to contact families directly. So anyway, bottom line, I'll work on it a little bit this coming week, and then it'll be a topic for conversation next week. Also, I have a meeting with Mercedes, who is the official volunteer coordinator for the farmers market, and they are going to be sending something out to all volunteers associated with the farmers market and listing what the opportunities are with the Young Gardeners program for the summer.
So perhaps if people have a specific need, like if you could say, email maybe me or just me, Nan, and Denise, an email, and we'll get it to Mercedes that says, I need a Monday water, a Friday water, a Saturday water. And we can share that with Mercedes.
Wait. Can we back up a little minute? So like you're saying, so for example, when I meet that woman, like, when I have a situation like that woman asking if they can go work in the garden, I'll just go ahead and give her you or Nan's.
Okay. So you know somebody, if you know somebody who and that they want to work at a specific school, you put them in touch with that garden leader.
Okay.
But for this one opportunity, since this email is about to go out, like just for today, if you have a known need, let us know, and then we'll be sending that out soon. So hopefully we'll get a little.
Okay, no, I don't have anything right now, but
Great.
okay, thank you.
Listen, all of you always have something. You may not have identified it, but everything that you do in the garden, you could be sharing with someone else.
Probably compost turning is always like the least favorite.
Have somebody come and like, are you interested in doing compost turning? I need somebody to help with weeding. I could use somebody who's just there with me in the mornings. So just be thinking about sharing what you're doing. Because that is one of the things that I'm going to say. I'm going to say we are generally looking for people to work with our garden leaders who are maintaining these sites as farms right now. We're looking for farm hands.
Oh, Denise, you're muted.
Sorry, I wouldn't exactly put it that way. You're going to be a garden fairy, or you're going to be a grower.
Don't be a farm hand. Okay, bye. Okay, is it time to take a break? Okay. We're going to have a really short conversation about social media. Social media is very important. And I'm saying that more to me than to you. And it's important for many different reasons. What are the different reasons that you think social media is important for the Young Gardeners program? Everybody unmute. Just start calling out.
For awareness of what we are and what we do in the community.
Exposure, yeah. What we're doing.
Attracting volunteers.
Attracting volunteers, yes.
People that really enjoy our Young Gardeners posts.
People enjoy what we have to say.
Maybe it can spread our movement farther, because I'd like to see this spread.
Spread the movement. We're a movement.
Educate people on like seasonal vegetables and like how things grow. A lot of people don't even know that plants only grow in one season.
Education.
Or that artichokes bloom so pretty.
Yes.
So learning about plants. Learning about gardening. Okay. For all of those reasons, it is really important that we post, and the standard for the farmers market organization is that we should be posting a minimum of 3 times a week, preferably at least once a day. Now, to simplify things, there is going to be a social media kind of point person or coordinator. I thought we were going to have one just for the Young Gardeners program, but actually there's a conversation being held organization-wide, and there may be a social media coordinator, or that may not be the right terminology, for the entire organization. And the reason for that is to stagger the postings over time, to make sure that all of the appropriate acknowledgments and descriptions are included in the post, and then to make sure that the posts are at least distributed to Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook minimum. Now, for now, starting next week. Oh, before I go any further, is anybody here interested in being the social media point person? That would mean you'd be posting for the entire organization and posting.
I love how this is the first time everyone's like, no.
That seems like a good Jessica job.
For young gardeners?
No, we have a candidate. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't overlook anybody here.
Oh, cool.
Well, who are you talking about? Are you talking about the Young Gardeners program? Are you talking about ACE program? Are you talking about
Young Gardeners program? Just the Young Gardeners program.
Just okay.
Yeah. Okay. So starting next week, if each site could, she wants them to come to me for now. If each site could send either text or email me a photo at least once a week, at least. But if you want to do it every day, that's fine. And if there's any text that anything that you want to say about the photo, texting is easiest for me, but whatever is going to be easy for you.
So I shouldn't post because I post mine directly.
I know, it's awesome. And I was like, hey, we're posting, Honey's posting. But believe it or not, we got a complaint from a family because their school wasn't being shown in our social media posts. This is the kind of stuff, you guys, you have no idea how much drama there is around social media for Young Gardeners program. I get comments every week from the school district, from a family, from the ACE program, from the TOR program, from the Moody Foundation.
What kind of drama? Like what? How?
People feel connected, and when they see posts and they don't see either their organization or their school, they feel like, hey, I'm a part of YGP. I have that ownership that I feel in the garden, and they want to see that reflected online, like in equal measure between schools.
They want to be acknowledged. It's a great thing we're involved in. And honestly, this is great. So for me, this is one of these areas where I'm clearly funky. You know, I'm like, I've got an attitude. And so what it's pointed to for me is how stingy I am or can be with acknowledgement. Like I feel like, what's the problem? But people want to be acknowledged either as individuals or as organizations.
Especially if they're funding us.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, the other, yeah. And you, I don't know if you realize this, but we are a well-funded program. We're a well-funded program. So yes, honey, you no longer have to post directly. You're going to send me your text. I mean, you actually do the post completely right.
I like it.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Okay, you can just keep doing it. You can just keep doing it. You don't have to send me anything. Everybody else send me stuff and I'll just supplement what she's doing. Because you're actually putting all of the, I don't know how you do it, but you put all that stuff in there that's supposed to be in there.
I copy and paste it from my clipboard and just flip it in there.
Well, do you want us to, does it need to be labeled with what school it's from, or does it need to have anything on it?
If you want to put something on what you're sending me, but if
It is going to need to be labeled.
What?
I was going
It's
to say,
going to need to be labeled because people may not always know what school it is. If you have
Wait. When you're sending me the picture, I will know what it is.
Yeah, but the next person might not.
No, she's saying she'll label it. Nan will label it.
I'm going to label it.
Oh, you're going to label.
I'm going to label.
in the future, if it's not going to be you, it's going to be someone
We don't
else.
know yet whether it's going to be a Young Gardeners point person or a Go from point person. So
Okay.
just to make it simple, send it all to me. And then next week on Monday, we're going to figure out whether, how it's actually going to get disseminated. Okay. Oh, and then the other thing about social media is we cannot post pictures of kids in the program on our own personal profiles. I'm super guilty.
Yeah, and that's a very legal issue. You know, there are forms that have to be signed through the ACE program that go home. And you'll probably know at the beginning of the year if any of your kids have opted out for whatever reason of social media, because the site leader should tell you, like, so-and-so, their parents have said they don't want any pictures taken, and we have to be careful to respect that. So that's something you might want to watch out for next year. Is finding out which students aren't allowed to have their photos taken. But you personally, if you don't have that consent, you could actually be liable. So be very careful.
So I have a question. So the school does send home media release and photo release forms. Do we need to make our own? Are we going to have our own, or can we go and find out who our kids are? And once we figure out who our kids are, just pull that paper and
So
have
this year, I actually went to the site directors to find out if anybody had opted out. And actually, at none of the schools had anybody opted out. But next year, I think it's better if you guys go to the site director and find out if anybody has opted out for social media and publicity.
I had one little girl just adamant with me that she couldn't do it, although she hadn't opted out. She was like, "Don't take my picture. My mom said I'm going to get in trouble." So I was like, "Okay, babe, I will never put your picture up." But she was adamant.
Yeah.
He may know something that the mom didn't communicate with the school, and maybe things changed, between the time they collected that media form.
Yeah.
Well, I
have a question, but we can, of course, we can share things that are through the program
Yes.
on our own personal pages.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so you could repost what we post.
Right.
Or, of course, if it's like pictures of the vegetables, or maybe something anonymous like children's hands or something like that, but faces are what is not allowed.
Anything else about media and publicity? Okay. Record keeping. Denise, are you doing this part or am I?
I don't mind doing it.
Okay, great.
Let me get down there. Okay, so let's get to that record keeping part. So in the past, I know we've discussed doing paper volunteer sign-in and keeping track of, the number of bags that go home with the children and how many students are there and so on. And that's still fine, but we actually need for you to do the huddle report. And the reason is that, go ahead, Nan.
I'm going to get it. I'm going to put it in the chat.
You're going to share it out? Okay. The reason is that your answers in that huddle form go to a spreadsheet, and that is really important in terms of keeping track of what goes home, what we actually do. These numbers are really important because we report those to funders, and it also just gives the people that support us the knowledge that they need to have to support us, whether it's with money or their time. So it's inefficient for me to collect those sheets that we've been filling out and then inputting them. So it's just so much better if you can do that huddle report every day.
Also, it's not just for funders. It's for us to have data about how we are truly, really doing.
Right.
How many volunteers really were there? Oh, it wasn't enough. Well, how many were there? 7? It may not have felt like enough, but that's beyond our standard. How much food is being sent home? I'm sending home 50 bags, 2 per kid. Wow. What are you doing that's making your garden so productive.
Right. So it's just, this form is a very simple form, and it shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes to fill out. And if you want to do the paper form and then transcribe it to the huddle report, that's fine. You can do it any way you want. It just needs to be done after every session, or on a weekly basis if you want to fill out the forms and then do it at the end of the week, or whenever you have to.
It's going to be kind of hard to do it at the end. Oh, I guess if you're keeping it on paper and then you transfer it.
Yeah.
Okay, got
It's however you want to do it, whatever's best for you. So we'll just go through it real quick. We're not having volunteer sign in. Just tell us how many volunteers you have. Choose your school, your name, the number of students that you have. That tells us a lot too, because we want to make sure we have enough.
Unknown caller.
Sorry. We want to make sure that we've got a good number of students. Of course, the bags of produce tell us a lot, just like Nan said. And your number of volunteers, they don't need to sign in. Just tell us you had 2 or you had 3. And then an incident report can be done here too if you have one.
Now,
And that can be about volunteers or the kids. We need to know either way.
and you actually have to say yes or no. I can't go on to this unless I put information in here.
Let's go ahead.
Okay, hold on.
I don't know if well, I guess it will. Okay.
Now I can go next.
Okay, so there's your incident report in case you need it, and hopefully you won't. But like I said, you need it whether or not it's an adult or it's a student, because we do need to know. And this is especially important if you have a head injury, but a head injury should go to the nurse. Anyway, but we need to know. Okay, any questions?
Why do we have to type your full name on there if we already have their name at the top?
I don't know. Is their name at the top?
Yep, session leader.
Is that like your signature?
Yeah, it would be like your signature. Who's filling out this form?
Oh, in case somebody else is filling it out.
In case somebody else fills it out, like a volunteer.
Okay, and additional comments. I'm gonna try to get this all on one page too.
Okay, any questions about the final huddle report?
Where is it going to be? Like on Drive? Where do you?
Yes.
Or is it?
There should be an icon on your iPad.
I can help you make a shortcut on your home screen, Larry, if you remind me next time I'm over there.
Yeah, I need you to help me do a lot of stuff on.
Anybody else need help with that? Does
But
anybody else need help with this? Putting it on your desktop?
Otherwise, you can go into the Drive and you can search YGP Final Huddle Report.
Oh, okay.
Why don't you guys go ahead and do that and make sure that you can find it? Because I've found that sometimes it's really been hard for me to find sometimes the forms.
Oh, but you know what? If they search it like that, it's going to bring up the editable version.
Yeah, we're going to have to send it out to you every week.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
But this.
That'll be a good reminder.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right.
I'll send it out.
I think it might.
Wait. If we send it out every week, then they're only going to be filling it out once a week, and then that means they've got to transfer.
No, wait. I think it allows you. It says we need to put in there, because I know with the reimbursement forms it says, do you want to fill out another form? And it's not, if you have it on your desktop, it's not necessary. It's not the editable form, is it?
Well, the link that I just put in the chat is the regular form.
Is the one that they fill out?
Yes, the one that they fill out. So, I mean, like I keep these forms on my desktop or on my screen as a link that I just have to push on my phone.
Yeah, I think the link is going to work on your desktop. So,
So I have an icon, and if you want some help setting up the icon, you can help with that, Jessica.
Hmm.
So that all you'll do is you'll push that icon, you'll fill out the form,
Phone.
and hit send. And I'm pretty sure I made it so that it was available offline as well.
I was gonna say you can assign a volunteer to do this also. So if you're busy or running outside, and you happen to have one, if you're got a volunteer that day, say, hey, would you fill out this? I'll blah blah blah. Be right back.
and if you fill it out offline, then once you get back online, it's going to save your changes, and then you can submit it. Once you submit it, it gets sent to us. And it clears out the form, I believe. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Great. Awesome.
Okay.
We're going to move on to safety. Okay. Come back to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to watch the safety video, and then Nicole has agreed to answer any questions you might have about safety, because it's been a long time since I've worked in a public school, and private schools have different rules. So it's great to have some, and anybody else's feedback would be important too, but she agreed to field questions for us. All right. Now let me get there. I am there.
For the Galveston Independent School District. And I'm Kelly Moulton, your GISD superintendent. Along with the Texas Safety School Center, we're using safety protocols. There are 5 different actions that we're teaching staff and students. Each action has an icon that is consistent across the nation, the state, our county, and our schools. Safety is a priority for GISD. We want you to be informed.
Let me tell you about lockout. Lockout is when there is a school threat outside the school building. Teachers lock exterior doors near you, increase situational awareness, take role and account for students. Class instruction as usual. The main objective during a lockout is to secure the building. The announcement for lockout is lockout, get inside, lock outside doors. Lockout, get inside, lock outside doors.
Lockout. Lockout is called when there's a threat inside the school building. Teachers lock doors, turn off lights, and wait for first responders to unlock the door. Students, move away from hallway, line of sight, and remain silent. The announcement for lockdown is lockdown, locks, lights, out of sight, lockdown, locks, lights, out of sight. Shelter in place is called for whenever the need for personal protection is necessary. The adult in charge will identify the type of hazard and safety strategy in their announcement, which could include, in a weather event, we would drop, cover, and hold. In a hazardous environment, we would seal the windows, doors, and vents. In a medical hazard, we could close the hallway doors and windows. So teachers, please use the appropriate method and take role and account for students.
Evacuate. Evacuation is called whenever the need to leave the building is required. Teachers lead students to a specified location, take role, and account for all students. Students take keys, wallets, and IDs, but leave bags and purses behind and wait for special instructions. For example, holding hands, covering face, crawling, etc. The announcement for evacuation is evacuate to location, evacuate to location. For example, evacuate to flagpole, evacuate to flagpole.
Hold is called when the hallways need to be cleared due to a disturbance or when a prohibited item has been located on campus. Students are to remain in class and all doors are to be locked. Instruction continues and the hallways will be cleared. The announcement for hold is hold in your area, hold in your area.
Okay. All right. What questions do you have for Nicole?
And that's why
Whoops, sorry about that. Didn't stop.
It still surprises me that my reaction is like, wow, look at all those people close together sitting
Yeah.
closer than 3 feet apart.
Oh yeah, you're right. I that gets me too on TV. Anyway, any questions for Nicole? Okay.
That was easy.
Wait, Chris has one. Chris has a question.
So, do you practice this? Like, do you do like mock drills, like just with your kids, or do you wait for like the school to do it formally? How do you teach that? How do you remember to do what you need to do?
We do both. Like last year it became a big deal with the Santa Fe shooting and all that to make sure that the kids understood what they needed to do. So there were times where I would go over it with my kids and explain to them, hey, if this becomes a thing, this is what we're doing. So if Miss Pretz comes over the intercom and says lockdown, that's where we turn off all the lights, lock the doors, and they move out of sight. And I've had some in the past get very scared just with the practice. You have to go through it with them, make sure they understand what it is. And this is a practice, but if this happens in real life, this is what you're going to do. And some of them still get very scared, but I try to at least practice with them 2 or 3 times a month, but sometimes I can't. But when Miss Pretz does it over the intercom, at least at OPI, she doesn't tell us. So we'll have scheduled ones, and then we will have a spontaneous lockdown. So she can go through the building and all the things. They come through, they wiggle on the door jamb, they bang on the door, they do all kinds of things to make it as real as possible. But yeah, it gets practiced a lot.
So Nicole,
So then my question is, Nan,
yeah,
what do we do in our program? What is our protocol in our garden so that we're prepared for something, all 3 of those?
Well, so first of all, they're getting a lot of practice with what these things mean. But the issue is that we are usually outside.
Yeah. So what do we do?
That's what I was just going to bring up, actually. And we had one in our school, which we had one in my small school if we had a active shooter and we needed to get off the school property. And one was to scatter in groups. And then you do a daisy chain to a designated location. Our location was a fire station that was down the street, but we didn't want everybody running in the same direction. We wanted everybody to scatter. So that was our plan. But I think it is a question about what our plan is going to be.
Because when we asked that question last year of Amador, he didn't have an answer.
No,
he said, he did say run.
He did?
I do remember him saying.
He said run? Okay.
He said it depends on what the threat was, and they said if it's a threat that's outside, then we need to get them back in. If it's a threat that's coming out at us from inside, then we blow our whistle on the garden and go to a designated location in the garden or off the school grounds.
I forgot that. I'm sorry. Thank you.
So we need to talk
Say
about
that
what
again.
each school designated location is.
Yeah.
So to say it again, what they told us to do was we will figure out if it's an internal threat or external. If it's inside the school, somebody from inside the school is going to tell us, and we stay out. If it's something outside, like some dangerous person is coming in the garden or on the school grounds, then we blow our whistle and the kids should come to us and we get back inside. But our practice was to find out what is that location. When they hear that whistle, where do they go? That was what we had to figure out.
That's why I ordered those whistles last year.
That's right. Thank you, honey.
Yeah, but if you've got an active shooter, somebody that actually comes up to the garden,
Yeah, that was what he was talking about.
Yeah, I just think that, for your particular situation, probably at Rosenberg, you'd be fine just to head for that door. Morgan, maybe the same thing. But Crenshaw, you guys, you have a place. You could go in lots of different little groups and.
What about OPI?
Oh, that's even more wide open, but you maybe go around to the back of the building. Yeah.
There are designated places that we have at OPI. So we're from the garden, we would be running towards the bus barn.
The bus barn.
Toward the what?
Towards the what?
Barn.
The bus barn is on the opposite side of the field.
Is that where the garbage is and all that?
No, that's closer to the fire department. So when you come up, when you're at the garden at Oppie and you're looking at that giant field, you're going to look left, and that's where all the school buses are. It's right across the street from Rocket Park.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. All right, I got you. Okay.
So should each garden leader find out where the designated places are for their site?
I would recommend that, yes. It's already figured out by the school. So instead of reinventing the wheel and trying to figure out a new thing, it would be easier just to talk to the principal or whoever site coordinator to figure out where they're designated.
You guys all have one of those whistles? Those sonic blast whistles?
Oh yeah, right here, baby.
Cat needs one.
I don't, but I've been wanting to get like one of those sports whistles at Academy or something for.
We actually have whistles in the office.
Oh, we still have some?
We still have some, yeah.
Oh, okay. Do not order. Okay, fine.
Well, yeah, don't order for now because we've got a few still left.
Okay. So who needs one? Danielle? Kat? Donna, do you have one? A sonic blast whistle? Then you need one, Donna. Larry, do you have a sonic blast whistle?
I've got several whistles, yes.
Okay, cool.
But I wear a whistle all the time.
I was gonna say, I think you wear a whistle just walking around, don't you?
Yeah, well, you have to have one inside the school. I mean, when you're in the gym, you can't get anybody to do anything without a whistle.
Okay.
Larry, you're a PE teacher?
No, I'm a substitute. I've been a substitute for many, many years. So I've had every class all the way from pre-K to 8th grade.
He's
Is the only
the substitute teacher who is
so the
always
only
on call.
school the only school in Bolivar is that one that what do you call it, Crenshaw?
Well, actually, there is also High Island.
Yes.
And they go their school is K through 12.
Huh.
Our school is K through 8.
Oh.
Pre-K through 8.
Huh.
Okay, wait. Donna, Danielle,
Is there somebody else?
and Kat.
Cat, okay.
Okay. What else about safety? Nothing else?
Muted.
Denise, you're muted.
We'll follow up on the designation for the safe place, should there be somebody menacing in the garden, in a meeting right around the first of the year, probably because we're going to need to find out what's going to be happening with school.
And also related to safety, everybody does have a first aid kit in your shed. So you might just check in on that, over the summer if y'all want to look and see like, oh, hey, I'm totally out of Band-Aids. I've definitely used up a bunch of Band-Aids. Honey, you need Band-Aids?
No, you know what I need though? The Band-Aids are great. The tweezers, those little plastic things suck. I mean, I've had so many kids get splinters and I can't get it out because those tweezers just don't do the job. If we could get metal tweezers, I don't know why.
You know what? Oh, honey, I would, if I were you, I'd send them to the nurse.
We don't.
They don't have a nurse yet.
I don't have a nurse. We don't have a nurse either.
Yeah, but I don't know. When I was teaching in public school, they wouldn't let us do that.
If you're taking out a splinter, they typically tell you to put the Band-Aid on it and let mom and dad deal with it, not knowing if it can get infected or what is in the finger. So that's
seems so cruel.
Wait, so you're saying the school district doesn't want you to take the splinter out?
No.
Not the teacher, no. If there's a nurse, and the nurse can take the splinter out, but no, we're not supposed to take.
I did that several times in Rosenberg. I was taking splinters out.
Me too.
They also don't want us to put on bug spray.
I know about that now.
I had kids put on bug spray with their name on it, and if they wanted it, they could go do it. But it was
Donna.
There.
Okay, Donna's trying to say something. Yes, Donna.
Sorry. There's a salve or an ointment called plantain or something, black ointment, and it retrieves the splinter. I don't know if we're able to use that.
I don't think you're supposed to put anything on them because
Okay.
of allergies and such. And I was always told, nope, you can't do that. You send them to the nurse or they go home and their parents take care of
That
it.
seems terrible.
And I know it does, honey. It's one of those things that just is about just
Okay.
one of those things.
Okay. Plantain ointment. Ooh, that looks interesting. Okay. Yeah, I see it in a black jar.
We
Kid-friendly
get some for community days though.
Kid-friendly
Oh, yeah,
herbal ointment
plantain
for
draws it
pumpkin
out.
And then also, you know, this just occurred to me, a safety thing that I've seen most often is kids getting dirt in their eyes or soil sprayed in their eyes, and that, or maybe whatever kind of spray, that would require taking them either to the hose, although ideally you'd be like in a faucet and rinsing their eyes out and just letting the water go through their eyes. Kind of a safety thing.
Okay. Wow.
You know what? I'm sorry. I have one more thing about the safety that I had. I had one little kid who always was falling and hurting himself. But after ACE wanted pictures because because he was bleeding. And so every time he was injured, they wanted me to take a picture of the injury so that we could talk. Because, you know, kids, they think their whole leg is falling off and it's a scratch.
Okay.
So we had to take pictures, and I had to do an incident report for you guys and one also for the ACE program. I always had to do one for them as well.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good rule of thumb that if they're bleeding, yeah. Even if
you gotta take a picture.
Scratch, yeah.
That reminds me, I don't know if this is something anybody else would have a problem with, but I guess I'm clumsy. Like the first week I was officially working for the Young Gardeners program, I was over at Rosenberg and I'm helping some kid, Hunter, dig. And I just forgot how quick kids move. And like, I was bending over, like pointing out some garden thing, and he was bending over and he jumped up really quickly and smacked me right in the eye. I had a black eye for weeks.
Yeah.
Good. You look like a prize fighter.
So, you know, personal space is a safety concern for you as well as the kids. So, you know, be aware of your space and the kids' space. That's just a thing.
Yeah. I mean, our gardens are wonderful and they are hazardous work areas.
That's true. I have to try to be as safe as we possibly can. So we have done the last thing on our list, Nan.
Almost the last thing. It's acknowledgement time. It is time for us to first of all acknowledge that really we've been in training for 2 weeks, Junior Master Gardener, and then this week on this remote training. 2 weeks. It may have only been 17 hours, but to me it felt like a big chunk of time and a big chunk of energy and focus. And I want to thank you for your attention, your participation, the contributions that you made, and for being like these amazing people on the planet. You know, I can't remember what the context was, but I said to somebody, I have an amazing life. I get to live a dream come true. And it is through all of you that I get to live that. So we are going to go around and I want to hear from you one thing that you are proud of regarding your participation in this training.
Participation in this dream?
In this training.
Training, okay.
In this particular training, you're going to acknowledge your participation in this training. So I'm going to start. One thing I'm proud of for my participation in this training is that I only cursed about once, maximum twice per session, and I put on makeup every day. I am so proud of this. Like, to remember it. I had to set an alarm. Okay, Nicole, you're up.
It is. Like, I'm not. I don't know. That I managed to get here every day on time, even though I had family in town.
Yes.
There you go.
And you had to do your sessions from the bar. I was very
Oh yeah. Yep. I was at O'Malley's on Monday. Dan had a really,
That's commitment, Nicole. That's commitment.
well, he was on shift for that whole Catholic Slab weekend thing, and he got home and woke me up, and he's like, "We're going to the bar." He's like, "I have training." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Bring it with you." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Oopsie." I was trying to drink my beers, not on camera.
You did a great job.
You really relaxed.
We didn't suspect a thing.
Nicole, you should definitely be proud of them.
Got to training on time with all the things that happened this week.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Donna, what are you proud of regarding your participation in this training?
I like the fact that everybody listened to everybody else and took in what they said.
So are you proud of how you listened? I want to know what you're proud of regarding your participation.
Yes, I'm proud of listening and learning.
I definitely felt listened to by you. Yeah, really. Thank you. Honey!
I'm like Nicole, like, I don't know. I'm proud that I made it.
What did it take for you to make it?
I work 3 jobs. So it took some schedule and I take care of my parents. So it took some shuffling and some scheduling to get here, but I made it every day. One day I was taking care of my parents while I was here.
I know.
So, yay!
Thank you, honey. Larry.
Hey, I'm really proud of the fact that I didn't get upset during any of the sessions about me not being able to log on to that Texas A&M website that went for days and days with no, it was frustrating. But anyway, I made it to it. I finished the course. It's done. I finished, this will be my 2nd training course with YGP in a different form. And it can be done, I guess it can be done in Zoom. It's different than it was when we were all meeting together. Seems like there's more people than we had last year. But yes, I'm pleased with the way that everybody kept temper and we communicated together. That's what I got a lot of it out of. Be able to talk to and understand and get other people's aspects. That's good for me.
Yeah, Larry. I am really happy that you made it through the JMG too. I don't know if I would have. Yeah.
Made it through the change?
The JMG, the Junior Master Guard AgriLife thing.
Hopefully they'll improve things, but I think they have a really small staff, and I think Brittany is it.
Yeah, it just took her so long to finally get back to me. But she did tell me that we have, once we've signed in, that we've got access to all those programs and everything for a year.
Yeah.
So if you ever need to go back to get resources, and there was some pretty good stuff in there. I'm probably going to use some of it.
Oh yeah.
Especially the carrot seeds on the paper towel. I think that might be a fun one.
Well, their nutrition lessons too are really
they were
good. The potato chip one I love, and also the fast food.
Yeah. I want to do that too.
Mm-hmm. Those are really good, worth doing.
Thank you, Larry. Denise, what are you proud of regarding your participation?
I'm probably proud today that I was doing 2 things at once. getting timesheets in and certificates, and also listening to your volunteer section. I'm not that proud of that, but it was something that I did.
Yeah.
I'm also really happy that people were so nice about getting the food. I thought it was really funny, and I barely made it by the skin of my chinny chin chin. But anyway, that's what I'm proud of. I'm also just proud of being part of this group.
Yeah, you're the multitasker extraordinaire, Denise. Danielle, what are you proud of? I'm sorry, what did you say, Denise?
From my college days, watching TV and studying French.
Wow.
I'm proud of a couple things, but mostly I'm proud of kind of facing and naming my fears or anxiety around the whole classroom management or the discipline management stuff. And it's just like a thing I feel like I need to work on or become comfortable with. And then also I had this couple of friends that are a couple and they're fighting, and I was able to apply some love and logic stuff. They were trying to bring me into their fight. And I just said, I know you guys are going to find a really good solution, and I support both of you. But this isn't mine. So I know you can do a good job figuring something out.
Wow. Yeah, your participation and your transparency and your vulnerability really made a difference for all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kat, what are you proud of regarding your participation in this training?
Being able to complete it, even though I'm like high on my medication for my staph infection.
You're here! It's like you're having a good time. I'll have what she's having.
No, yeah. I don't want a staph infection.
No, I'm sorry. Well, no, I don't mean to. I just mean whatever.
No, but it's really hard to focus because like all I want to do is sleep. And if I don't take the medication, then it itches uncontrollably. So just being able to be focused, and I have ADD. So then it's like on top of the ADD, and I'm like, okay, focus, rezone. So.
You are going through stuff and you are still here. And
yeah.
You got everything.
We'll see. Tomorrow I have a session, so we'll see how I manage the volunteers tomorrow.
Yeah, and you're working like the Dickens, just like nonstop. And you just started. Yep. Thank you. Chris Larrabee Johnson, what are you proud of?
What am I proud of in my participation with this
training?
I'd say two things. One thing is usually in most circumstances, it's my enthusiasm. I always tend to have a wholehearted bit of it. And then the second thing was asking questions.
You are really good at asking questions.
Thank you.
I always have the sense that you already know the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Good. And it's good to acknowledge that for yourself. Thank you. Jessica Antonelli. What are you proud of, Jessica?
I'm proud of the videos, especially like all the behind the scenes work. I had a lot of fun making them, and I got to.
Oh, yeah.
Hallelujah. I agree completely.
It seems like something you're really good at, and that's something I want to learn about because, well, I feel like a bit of a dinosaur. But yeah, you've got a good grip on that, and that's a skill I should learn.
You're proud of your superpower. Yay!
Mm-hmm. It's a love-hate relationship sometimes because it's a lot of sitting in front of the computer, but in the end, when the thing goes live, it's like, hooray! So, yeah.
All right. Unless there's somebody else wants to say.
Yes, I was proud of the video too. I forgot. I left that out.
Good, Larry. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I have to say that I was like, this could be the Chef Larry and Chef Jessica show, Cooking with Kids.
Hey, you know what? Jessica and I were talking. I was like, you know, what would really be cool is if you could do a little series thing like Drivers, Dine-Ins, and Dives or whatever, and you go to different people's gardens and collect their produce or whatever and cook something with it. And I bet you people would watch that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be many more
It'd be
videos.
cool
in your
just to
garden.
do that between our gardens too, like foraging the YGP garden and then like
Yeah.
putting it all together. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it could be called foraging with YGP.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
So obviously more is to come with YGP. So I'm going to declare this training complete. Denise will be getting your certificate emailed to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
all.
Good job.
Thank you.